There's an old saying that necessity is the mother of invention, and it's really true.
He could look at a machine, for example, and decide what to do, how to make it work.
Bob also is an engineer's engineer. And he assured that we had the latest technology, and of course anybody wants to compete with us, they had to stay with us.
He has so many patents, I can't even remember how many there are.
His contributions are enormous, both through his leadership at Schreiber Foods and his technical development in the company from an engineering standpoint, really making a difference in the marketplace.
With a career that spans more than 53 years in the cheese industry, Bob Bush has a long and legendary list of industry-changing contributions. As the son of Schreiber founder Merlin G. Bush, Bob grew up in the cheese business. While in college, during the mid and late 1940s, he began working summers at Schreiber Foods.
Well, Bob has been involved in the dairy and cheese business since he was a little kid. From the time he was probably 15 years old, he was in cheese plants and around the cheese-making business.
After earning his dairy science degree from the University of Wisconsin in 1950, Bob spent an additional year in school to study mechanical engineering before joining Schreiber full-time as a maintenance engineer. A born tinkerer, no machine was safe around Bob, and he was rarely seen without his hands on some sort of contraption. Bob's ingenuity led Schreiber's efforts in numerous technological innovations, and eventually he would oversee operations. He helped realize engineering breakthroughs that not only supported the company's early success, but also revolutionized the cheese industry.
Shortly after I joined the company, I had to solve some problems and make some minor modifications to equipment, so on that we needed. And so I did have a drawing board, the old-fashioned drawing board in my living room. My wife didn't really go for that, but I made a cover for it so we could cover it up when I wasn't using it. But I'd come home after working for a day here and sit down at that drawing board, and that was fun. I just loved that.
Bob really was, I think, instrumental in the individually wrapped singles business. While he may have not made the first machine, he made the first efficient machine, and has changed the whole industry.
Bob Bush revolutionized the industry with his engineering expertise. He led the invention of the technology that gave the world individually wrapped processed cheese slices. Bob has been awarded 17 patents over his lifetime, further reflecting his efforts to improve the technology of cheese production. Bob's positive impact on Schreiber Foods extended to the entire cheese industry. By introducing and marketing new products that enhanced consumer choice, Bob and Schreiber effectively expanded sales of cheese products in the United States as well as around the world. Yet beyond the drawing board, Bob Bush pursued constant innovation throughout Schreiber, innovation that ultimately made its way across the industry.
A number of things that Bob did then that transitioned into the rest of the industry are Bob was really for assuring that the whole cheese industry, dairy industry, not beyond cheese, that we were responsible people and took pride in making sure that we made safe product. If you notice all the standards that we have around here about food safety and how we recognize it and how we treat it, partner safety, that part of we were a leader in that part of our business back in, I'm going back 40 years when Bob was first president.
And I do remember he set up a program of having the machines looked at, periodically examined to make sure they were working right, and if they needed any attention, then he always did that ahead of time. And in that sense, he was a leader in the industry because most people didn't do that.
In 1978, Bob Bush became president and CEO of Schreiber and served as president until 1985. Under Bob's tenure, Schreiber Foods grew from 1 plant and $12 million in sales to 9 plants and $1.5 billion in sales. His legacy as a leader resulted in Schreiber Foods now being the largest customer brand dairy company in the world.
Bob Bush epitomizes leadership. If I were going to look for a single trait, it would be his leadership. And his leadership was by his example, but almost as importantly, it was that he had the ability to look you right in the eyes, and he had that kind of meter that knew if you were blowing smoke or if you really knew what you were talking about. And he wouldn't really be confrontational, but he knew where you stood.
In addition to his industry contributions, Bob has been an active participant in many community organizations and has received numerous awards recognizing his efforts to improve and enhance his community. In 2010, Bob received an honorary Doctor of Science degree from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. He also remained involved with cheese and dairy organizations, serving as a director for the National Cheese Institute and the Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce Board.
Bob gives of his time freely and with compassion. He has always given to the community. I think that's a fabulous trait and something that the rest of us ought to look at and emulate when we can. And it's not a matter of money, it's really a matter of time and energy. You know, when Bob is on a committee with you, he has the full attention brought to that area that you're working on.
Bob Bush has dedicated his entire career to the cheese industry. With principles and perseverance, he has made endless contributions that strengthen the industry's growth and success.
The dairy industry has such high integrity, where we're competitors, suppliers, customers. We always treat each other with a high degree of respect. And I appreciate that about the dairy industry. And I think Bob's been a model of that in the dairy industry and the cheese industry.
I was a part of the NCI for many, many years and had the pleasure of meeting many of the past recipients. And Bob is among peers in that group.